This mother now faces a long list of charges after two of her young children were left home alone. They died in a house fire early Sunday morning. Charlotte-Mecklenburg police charged 26-year-old Orgal Opata with 2 counts of murder, 3 counts of reckless felony child abuse, and 4 counts of exposing a child to fire. The fire happened on Rowan Street around 6 o'clock Sunday morning. 4 children ranging from 1 to 7 years old had been left unattended. Neighbors tried to rescue all of the children, but 2-year-old Josiah Hawthorne and his 1-year-old brother Gabriel were killed. News 14 Carolina's Andrea Klein-Thomas has more.
Calling 911, they ask you so many questions. I said, sir, can you please come now and help us, Lord?
The screams of children and the crackling of burning embers got the attention of neighbors early Sunday morning. They ran over to this burning house on Rowan Street to help the children left alone inside.
I saw the flames then shooting up, and that's when I had to put my clothes on. I was sleeping, ran over there and got these kids, jerked them 2 out, and the little girl keeps saying, my brother, I told her, honey, we have to go. I can't get your brother out.
The flames were too strong. The 1- and 2-year-old boys died.
We pray for those 2 children that lost their lives in the fire.
Around the corner from the fire, members of the Chappelle Memorial Baptist Church prayed for the children and pledged to help those in need in the community. It's a community not only dealing with this tragedy, but other incidents as a result of crime.
Whatever their needs are, whatever their concerns are, that they have a place to go where that they can come for shelter, for love, just what a church is supposed to be here for.
The community is in mourning, whether they knew the children or not.
The fire department isn't saying exactly what caused this fire, but they did deem it accidental. Now, some neighbors say that they've seen the family use kerosene, and they suspect that could have something to do with the fire. Reporting in East Charlotte, Andrea Klein-Thomas, News 14, Carolina.
In shock, a day after 2 children were killed here in a house fire, neighbors start a makeshift memorial.
It makes me think about all the other kids around here.
Fire investigators say 4 children were left home alone when their home caught fire Sunday morning. Neighbors were able to save the 4- and 7-year-olds, but rescuers couldn't reach the 1- and 2-year-olds inside. The mother, Orgal Opata, now faces multiple charges, including 2 counts of murder.
It's very sad. It's very tragic.
Professor Sandra Jordan at the Charlotte School of Law says even though the mother didn't start the fire, she could still be held responsible.
Obviously, this is an accidental death. And so an accidental death doesn't have to be homicide. It can be homicide even though it's not an intentional death. And it could be either a negligent type of homicide where someone has engaged in conduct that is negligent, that is below the standard of care, and we can call this criminal negligence.
This is not Opata's first incident involving her children. In a court affidavit filed last October, a person said they found her 2-year-old walking down Rowan Street wearing nothing but a t-shirt and a diaper. The fire department found a 4-year-old on the front porch and a 9-month-old inside on the bed with no one home. Opata told officers she was running to get her oldest daughter from school and that she would be right back. Jordan says prosecutors could use the previous negligence charges against her.
You have a younger parent often who unfortunately does other things while they're in charge of their children, and unfortunately the death occurs, and those are very difficult cases.
Meanwhile, neighbors try to honor 2 children taken too early.
It's a sad thing altogether.
Now, we did attempt to get in touch with officials at CMPD and DSS, but they said they would not comment on specifics with this investigation. Meanwhile, the mother is expected in court tomorrow. Reporting in Northwest Charlotte, Becky B. Ryder, News 14, Carolina.
The bottom line is that 2 precious lives are lost.
The father of 2 young children killed in a fire last year says he's a changed man.
You really can't take things for granted because life is precious, and them babies, they didn't even have a chance to grow and mature. They didn't deserve none of this.
14-month-old Gabriel Hawthorne and 27-month-old Josiah Hawthorne died in this fire last year. Their 2 older siblings escaped. Their mother, Orgal Opata, admitted in court Thursday she left the 4 kids home alone twice that night. The first time to go to a nightclub, the second time to go meet with a man she met earlier that night in a hotel.
Very, very tragic, man. Not only did it tear apart 2 families, it also tore apart our community.
Opata teared up as she pled guilty to involuntary manslaughter and child abuse charges. She told the judge, "On that night, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I will pay for this mistake each and every day.
We don't know the whole story, do we?
Ruth Snyder and Judy Patterson spoke in Opata's defense. They minister to Opata and say she's changed in the 16 months since the fire, and she's sorry.
None of us are perfect. None of us can say we've never made a mistake.
And she's sorry. She's asked forgiveness, not only of her family and friends, but she's asked God to forgive her.
Opata was sentenced to 10 to 15 years behind bars.
No, I don't think it's justice.
Not enough to the young children's father and grandmother.
The time she got a long time to think about what she done. It should have been longer.
In Uptown, Sean Flynn, News 14 Carolina.
Children left home alone, killed in a house fire early last year. Now their mother will go to prison for at least a decade. Orgel Opata pleaded guilty today in a Charlotte courtroom. Our Sarah Batista was there, and Sarah, a plea deal reached, but Opata still faces some serious time behind bars.
She'll spend the next 10 years of her life, Maureen, behind bars, and today she pled guilty to 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter and 2 counts of felony child abuse. And she cried in court as she explained how she'll have to live with this mistake for the rest of her life. This was the scene outside of Orgel Opata's West Charlotte home days after her 2 young boys died in a house fire sparked by a kerosene heater. Today, the 27-year-old pled guilty to leaving her 4 children home alone in February of 2010. She'd gone to a nightclub. In court, Opata wept as she said, "Today is as tragic for me as the day my sons died. I made the biggest mistake of my life. This is something I will have to live with forever. I'm truly sorry to my family and Mr. Hawthorne." Jerry Hawthorne, the father of the 2 boys, 1-year-old Gabriel and 2-year-old Josiah, says he's satisfied with Opata's sentence, but called it a tragedy.
Not only did it tear apart 2 families, it also tore apart community.
In court, prosecutors explained how Opata's house didn't have any heat or hot water, yet she still spent money on acrylic nails and entertainment. Opata claims she was in an abusive relationship with Hawthorne and was suffering from depression. She says she's received therapy since she's been in jail, saying, quote, "Even though I am still grieving the loss of Josiah and Gabriel, I am proud to say that I am not the same woman who walked through those doors." Josiah and Gabriel's grandmother, Alicia Green, says she hopes the case sends a message to the community.
Can you imagine how I'm feeling right now? That I can only go to the cemetery, just stand there and talk. I lost a lot.
A tragic story. I also mentioned that there were 2 other children in the house that night. They were 4 and 7 years old at the time. Opata thanked her family.
All right, thanks, Jacinda. Now at 4, a trip without the kids cost them their lives and her future. Orgel Opata will now spend the next decade behind bars. In February 2010, police say Opata left her 4 young children at home alone. During her absence, a space heater caught fire, killing 2 of them. She was charged with murder and child abuse. She entered a guilty plea today in order to lower the charges against her. WBTV's Sarah Batista was inside the courtroom. She is live now at the Mecklenburg County Courthouse. Sarah, I imagine a lot of emotion surrounding today's plea.
Brigida, this is a mistake that Orgel Opata will have to live with for the rest of her life, and she basically acknowledged that in court today. She pled guilty to 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter and 2 counts of felony child abuse, and she'll spend the next 10 years behind bars. She says she admitted that she left her children home alone so that she could go party. They have a picture of 1-year-old Gabriel Hawthorne and 2-year-old Josiah. Opata pled guilty today to leaving them home alone in February of last year. And we learned today that the house had no hot water or heat, and Opata apparently left a kerosene heater on, which sparked the fire. The boys died of smoke inhalation. Today, their father said in court that he didn't want to criticize Opata, but he hoped that other people would learn from her mistake.
I hope that they will learn that it's not always about you. When you have kids, you got to make sacrifices. And believe it or not, even though it was not said, I made a lot of sacrifices for my kids.
And Opata became very emotional in court, saying that she's still grieving the loss of her 2 boys. She said that she is sorry, and again, she is going to have to live with this for the rest of her life. She also thanked her family members for adopting the 2 older children who were able to make it out of that house fire. For now, we're live from the Mecklenburg County Courthouse. Sarah Batista, WBTV, on your side.
Thank you, Sarah.